to do, as I was saying, our last English type lesson today. And then tomorrow we do algebra proofs, which I don't think you'll think are too bad. Kids usually get to where they catch on very quickly to those. And then we'll be done after today of the English type stuff except for the quiz. And you guys have, let me look here. So tomorrow we do those proofs, Monday we don't have school, Tuesday we do a practice quiz, and Wednesday we do a quiz, okay? All right, so today what we're gonna talk about is deductive reasoning. And so far in this chapter we've talked about inductive reasoning, particularly when we did section 2-1. We looked at like a pattern of numbers and tried to say what our next number would be, and we also would write what that pattern was, try to describe it. So deductive reasoning is where you actually have a rule or a law or a definition or something like that that you would follow. So it's not so much at like looking at things and trying to come up with a conclusion that may or may not be correct. With deductive reasoning, you're actually looking at facts, okay? So the first thing that I'm gonna explain the two different laws that we're doing today. So please listen to this. So the first kind of law that we're gonna learn is called Law of Detachment. And what's gonna happen in this is your first sentence is going to be an if-then form. If it's not, then you have to write it in if-then form. So P, this means if P then Q. So it has to be in if-then form, okay? Then what's gonna happen is this second thing is gonna refer back to the beginning of your sentence, and it has to refer back to the beginning, and then the last part is referring back to the end. So I'll give you an example. If you said something like, if my name is Mrs. Botten, then I teach math, this would have to be something about being Mrs. Botten, like my name is Mrs. Botten. And then this would refer back to the end, so this would be something about me teaching math, okay? So whenever you have, if this was like, if your name is Maya, then you have a 4.0, this would be something like her name is Maya, and this would be she has a 4.0, okay? So that's kind of what you would be doing in Law of Detachment. Here's an example. So it says, if you are 16 years old, then you can get your license. Maddie is 16 years old, so notice that this refers back to the beginning. It's talking about somebody being 16 years old, and then this is referring back to the end. It's talking about somebody getting their license. Okay, it can't be the opposite. They will try to trick you today, and they'll have the second one refer back to the end and the third one refer back to the beginning. It can't work that way. Second has to go back to the beginning. Last one goes back to the end. Then we have something called the Law of Syllogism, and in this one you want all three to, or I should say need to be in if-then form. So one way we can tell the difference between syllogism and detachment, in detachment, only the first one is in if-then form. Only the first one is. These two are just partial statements. Okay, so the first one is in if-then form. These two are partial statements. Whereas in Law of Syllogism, all three are going to be in if-then form. Now, what happens in Law of Syllogism is the ending of your first sentence and the beginning of your second sentence are going to be almost identical. And what you're going to do is cross those out. And your final thing is going to be if this, then this. It doesn't even have to make sense when you write that final statement. It just has to work out that these two pieces have to be very, very similar. You get rid of those and you say if P, then R. So I'll show you an example. It says, if it is winter, then it will snow. If it will snow, then the roads will get slippery. So in this one, the ending of this and the beginning of that have to be almost identical, okay? They're both talking about it snowing, so we get rid of that, and when we write our final, it's if it is winter, then the roads will get slippery. Do you guys get that? Okay. So now if we go here, we're gonna just talk about Law of Detachment for a second. So with Law of Detachment, again, you have one if-then statement, two partial statements. The second statement has to refer back to the beginning. The last statement has to refer back to the end, okay? So this says, if a car is out of gas, then it will not start. Then it says Sarah's car is out of gas. So this is referring back to that. And then it says Sarah's car will not start, and that's referring back to that. So that is Law of Detachment, okay? What they'll do sometimes is switch these two to confuse you, and then you have to realize that's no longer Law of Detachment. So here's an example. And what we're doing here is just saying yes or no, if they're in their Law of Detachment or not. So it says, if two angles form a linear pair, then they are supplementary. And then it says, angle A and angle B form a linear pair. Is this referring back to the beginning? Yeah, right? It's talking about two angles forming a linear pair. Is this talking about the end?
Good.
Yes. So then that is Law of Detachment, and all we have to say there is yes. Okay? Then if I go to this one, it says, if Micah goes to the beach, she will wear sunscreen. Micah is wearing sunscreen. Is this referring back to the beginning or the end?
The end.
The end. Is that what we want?
No.
No. Does everybody understand that? So then you just say no. The second one has to refer back to the beginning of the sentence. Says, if you are a junior, you should take the AC test. Sarah should take the ACT test, and Sarah is a junior.
No.
Is this referring back to the beginning or the end?
The end.
End. How about this?
The beginning.
The beginning. Okay? Is that the way we want it to go? No. So then we just say no. And your assignment today is not too bad. I think all I gave you guys is a worksheet, and it's pretty quick and fast. So this one says, if a student turns in a permission slip, then the student can go on the field trip. Philippe turned in his permission slip. Is this talking about the beginning?
Yes.
Yes. And then the final is Philippe can go on the field trip. Is this talking about the end? Yes. So we just say yes. Okay. Now, let's go to this page. So this one has the first two sentences. We have to see, could we write a third statement? And if we can, we do. If we can't draw a conclusion because it's not Law of Detachment, we just say not possible, okay? So if we look at this one, it says, if you wash the cotton t-shirt in hot water, then it will shrink. You wash the cotton t-shirt in hot water. Is this referring back to the beginning?
Yes.
Yes. So what do you think we would conclude?
It shrinks.
It will shrink, or it shrinks. Yep, something like that, and that's all you have to say. It will shrink. So the second statement referred back to the beginning, so our conclusion is going to be something like that. It will shrink. Okay? Then let's look at this one. If you are late for your interview, then you will probably not be offered the job. You are late for your interview. So is this the same as this?
Yep.
Yes. So this is referring back to this. So what would we conclude on that then?
You don't get offered the job.
Yep, you probably will not be offered the job.
What if you don't say probably?
That's fine. Okay, so if we look at this one, if Rocori wins the championship, then we will celebrate. Rocori wins the championship. Is that about the first part?
No. Oh, whoops. Yeah.
So what would we conclude?
We celebrate.
Yep. And I know these last couple of days you're probably like, why are we learning this in math? There's like a whole class in college that's called logic, and all of this that we're learning is logic. And so it's supposed to be building different problem solving in your brain to help you when it comes to the proofs that we're going to be doing this year. And like I said, I do know that it's kind of crazy. Okay, what do you guys think about this one?
Not possible.
Not possible. Do you guys agree? Yeah. Okay, because if you look at this one, this does not refer back to the beginning. So because of that, we're just going to say not possible. Okay. Now, let's go to this page. So now this is that second law that I showed you. It's called Law of Syllogism. And like I said, in this one, all three statements have to be in if-then form. So if you're trying to decide between the two laws, what you can say is, you can tell just by the way they're written. If they're in if-then form, all three of them, then you want to think of this law, okay? And this was the one where the ending of this and the beginning of that are the same, so you kind of cross those out and then you say your final. So here's an example. If you get a job, then you will earn money. If you earn money, then you will buy a car. So these two are talking about the same thing, so we get rid of those. And your conclusion would be, if you get a job, then you will buy a car. Okay? So, here's an example. It says, if you are athletic, then you play sports. If you play sports, then you are good at sports. And then they have the conclusion, if you are athletic, then you are good at sports. This and this, are they talking about pretty much the same thing?
Yep.
Yes. So you forget about that, and then your final is just, if you are athletic, then you are good at sports. And it doesn't have to be true, okay? There's plenty of athletic kids in our school that don't play sports. But, so you don't worry about if it's true or not. This says, if you go to the gym, then you will be in shape. If you work out, then you will be in shape.
No.
Right, is this and this the same?
Nope.
No, isn't it these two that are the same? So that's not correct, so then we're just gonna say no. Okay? Then it says, if Bob completes a course with a grade of a D, then he will not receive credit. If Bob does not receive credit, then he will have to take the course again. So is this and this talking about the same thing?
Yes.
Yes. So we cross that out, and then you still have to check that they brought this down right. And they did. They say if Bob completes a course with a grade of a D, then he will have to take the course again. So that is correct. Okay? Then our next one here says, if you are in, this should be regular geometry, then you have a cool teacher. If you have Mrs. Botten, then you have a cool teacher. Is that in the right order? No. Because isn't it that these two are the same, right? So this one is not correct. So we're just gonna say no. Then if we look at our next one, it says, if you have your own car, then you have to pay for the insurance. If you have to pay for the insurance, then you need to get a job. So is this and this talking about the same?
Yep.
Okay. But did they copy this down correct?
Nope.
They didn't. So you have to be careful of that. This should be first, this should be second, and it's not. So this one actually is no. So you have to be careful on those. Okay. Now if we go, are we on the last page now? Is that right? So now if we go to this one, it says use the law of syllogism to draw a conclusion if possible. If a conclusion is not possible, just state not possible. So these should all be, so they're only gonna give us two. We have to write the third if we can. And those two should be an if-then form. So this, the ending of this is then the number is divisible by 2. And the beginning of this is if a number is divisible by 2. So does this one work? It does, because those two would be crossed out. And what I would say then is if a number is divisible by 4, then the number is even. Now if we look at this one, it says if the daily high temperature is 32 degrees or less, then the water in the pipe is frozen. If the water in the pipe is frozen, then the pipe will break. So is this one law of syllogism? It is. So we're gonna say if the daily high temp is 32 degrees or less.
While I finish that, so half more water.
What's that?
I'll finish half more water.
Then the pipe will break. Okay. Then it says, if Naomi saves enough money, then she can buy a concert ticket. If she buys a concert ticket, then she can see her favorite band. Is this one gonna work? It is, right? So we're gonna say, if Naomi saves enough money, then she can see her favorite band. this one says, if I throw a stick, then my dog will go fetch it. If my dog fetches the stick, then my dog will bring it back to me. Does that work?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So you guys are going to have a worksheet that is on Schoology, but I have a feeling when you click on it, it's not gonna work.
It won't let us in. It says
So,
we don't have access.
yeah, so give me 1 second and I will make that so you can access it. Did you think it was easy today?
Yes.
Yeah.